Hello everyone. For today's lesson, we're going to go over ternary operator in Java. So to get started, we're going to define some integers. I'm going to have an input integer, an input variable, and I'm going to have a variable called apps to store the absolute value of the input. And I'm going to have a do loop to read in the user input. So I'm going to set my input equals to, I'm going to scan it, and I'm going to pass in a string. Please enter a number. And let's go down here. We're gonna create this method, this scan method. So we're gonna have public static integer scan. So scan is the name of my method, and it's gonna take in a string S. So this is the string here that I'm passing into my scan method here. Inside my scan method, I'm gonna need a scanner. I'll call it sc equals new scanner. And then I'll define an integer I, and I'll default it to null. Next, I want to prompt the user to enter a number. So I'm basically prompting the user with the message that is being passed in to my method here. And then I want to check to see if the user have entered an integer. So I want to see if sc dot has next integer. Where is that? I don't see it here. Oh, there it is. If sc dot has next integer, then I want to read the integer value. So I want to set I equal to sc dot next int. And then I just want to return the value I. Alright, so that's gonna scan and it's gonna return the value I into my input variable. over here, let me check to see if the input is not null. Then I want to do something. So if the input is null, I just want to stop. I'm not going to do anything. If the input is not null, I'm going to do something. And my while loop here, I want to end it when I want to continue while the input is not null. So when the user wants to end the program, they're gonna enter something that is not an integer. When they enter something that is not an integer, then the program is not gonna do this part here. So then it's just gonna return the value of I. The value of I is gonna be null. And when it's null, then it's just gonna exit out. So I want to do while the input is not null, I'm gonna keep asking the user to enter a new number until they enter a null value, well, a character that is not an integer. Then again, this method is gonna return null. Once the method return null, I'm not gonna do this, and it's gonna exit out of the while loop and the program is gonna end. Alright, so if it's not null, what I want to do is I want to find the absolute value of the number that the user entered. So I'm gonna have my integer variable up here, apps, equal to absolute value of the input. And now we're gonna create this method here, the absolute value method. I'm just gonna copy this down here. And let's see, public static. The absolute value is gonna return an integer as well. We're just gonna change this name to absolute value. And the input is gonna be input, so that's gonna be an integer. The input is gonna be an integer. Alright, I'll call it I. And in here, I'm gonna get rid of all this. We're gonna say if I is less than 0, then I want to do I equals to I times -1. I multiplied by -1. So the absolute value of a number, the definition of absolute value is the absolute value tells you how far a number is from 0. So regardless of which direction the number is in, whether it's in the less than 0, negative, or positive, greater than 0, it just tells you how far the number is from 0. So an example, like if you have -9 and 9, the absolute value of those absolute value of -9 and 9 are both equal to 9, because they're both the same distance from 0. -9 is 9 away from 0 in the opposite direction, as opposed to 9 is 9 spaces away from 0 in the positive direction. Alright, so that's the definition of absolute value. And here, so basically we're saying if the value is negative, we're just going to multiply by -1 to make it positive and return the value. So if you enter -9, it's going to be multiplied by -1, and it's going to return the value of 9. Alright, so let's take a look, and maybe we want to print it out. So I'm gonna print the original value that the user entered. Number entered is, and the original value is, in this case, is the variable input. And then we're gonna print the absolute value. Its absolute value is, and in this case it's the variable ABS for absolute value. Okay, so there we have it, and let's try and run this. Please enter a number. If I put in 1, so it says the number entered is 1. Its absolute value is 1. So 1 absolute value of 1 is 1. Now if I do -2, the number entered is -2. Its absolute value is 2. If I do 0, the number for 0, its absolute value is 0. Let's try one more, -33. And absolute value of -33 is 33. When I'm done, I'm just going to do quit, and the program finishes. Okay, so that's basically, it's just simple Java coding so far. All we have is this method that it checks for negative numbers, and then it turns it into a positive number by multiplying with -1. Now let's move on to today's lesson. So today's lesson, we're gonna do the ternary operator in Java. So instead of having this scan method here, instead of having this absolute value method, we could have used the Java operator, the ternary operator in Java. So I'm gonna comment this out. And I'm gonna comment this out. Okay, so now there's no more absolute value, right? And instead of this line here, instead of calling the method, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say apps equal to input. So I have to put in a Boolean expression here. Input less than 0. So this is my expression, is input less than 0. And it's gonna return either true or false. my expression. That's expression 1 followed by a question mark. And then here I'm gonna enter my second expression. So if it's true, I want to take my input and multiply it by -1. Else, if it's false, then I'm just gonna return the input. Alright, so let's take a look at this. What we have here is let's break it down. So this expression right here, that's my first expression. That's a Boolean expression. Is input less than 0? So I'll call this expression 1. This here is my second expression. So if expression 1 is true, I'm gonna execute this and I return this value. So then apps is gonna be equal to this value. So this is my expression 2. Now if this is false, if expression 1 is false, then I'm gonna do this part. I'm gonna do expression 3. In this case, expression 3 is just returning the variable input itself. So apps is gonna be set to equal to input. So basically this is very similar to like the if then else statement, but in this case it's returning either the value of expression 2 or the value of expression 3. And just make sure that expression 2 and expression 3 returns the same type of variable, so that you can put it into another variable of the same type. Alright, so let's try and run this. Remember, we have commented out the code that we did previously, where we used the absolute value method. We're replacing it with this one operator called the ternary operator. And now we're gonna run it and let's take a look. Please enter a number. If I enter 5, so the number is 5, its absolute value is 5. If I enter another number, I enter -3. Number is -3, absolute value is 3. Let's try one last one. -6. And the absolute value is 6. When we're done, we're just gonna do quit. And the program ends. And that, my friend, is the ternary operator in Java. By the way, if this is your first time watching our videos, please click to subscribe and that would help us a lot. Thank you so much and we'll see you next time.